Hi, I'm Bill Gannon, the group publisher of Broadcasting and Cable, Multi-Channel News, Next TV, and TV Technology. On behalf of our entire team, I'd like to welcome you all to this year's virtual Fall TV 2020. We remain committed to delivering the highest quality speakers and event programming despite the many challenges and uncertainties of our times. A very special thank you to our presenting sponsor, our platinum sponsors, our gold sponsors, our media partner, and event partners. Please join me in thanking our terrific speakers who've kindly agreed to spend some time with all of us today. And I also want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. We appreciate it. We look forward to getting together with you all again live and in person soon. But until then, things are still happening in this industry of ours, and our journalists are hard at work staying on top of the news and trends at our magazines, our websites, and our newsletters. And now, I'll let our event producer, Tim Hanlon, tell you more about what we've planned for this week. Tim?
Thank you very much, Bill, and thank you all for joining us for yet one more day of fun and frivolity as we get more granular, literally and figuratively, into the topic of this week, that is audience measurement. We appreciate your joining us today, returning if you were here during the course of the week. If it's your first time, welcome to the proceedings. A reminder that all of the conversations that we had this week will also be available on demand. Today's presentations will be available at the end of the day today, but also anything that you may have missed earlier in the week is available literally now in the same place that you're accessing today's conversations. We truly are going to get more granular today, and I'm honored to be joined for our first panel by Howard Schimmel of Janus Strategy and Insights, and a longtime Turner broadcast media research / data analytics expert to kind of walk us into a very hot area and topic that goes beyond sort of the general umbrella, I guess you could call it, quote unquote, audience measurement. These are things around attribution, proving television's worth and value, seemingly odd idea and concept, right? Where you think television wouldn't have to prove itself. Well, we're in a digital world now where that indeed is the case. And then after this conversation, we called it and labeled it a debate. Of course, we labeled this that conversation before the festivities that occurred on Tuesday. But I think it'll be a kinder, gentler conversation, shall we call, about sort of the generalities of various approaches to measurement. And as we've heard this week, lots of different approaches and thoughts about how ratings and set-top box data and ACR and all that stuff. So our pal Tom Weiss from Deductive, now part of the MarketCast family, will sort of lead that conversation, hopefully a nice exclamation point to a week's worth of great conversations. But let us spend no more time digressing from the matter at hand. And I hand it over to my pal Howard Schimmel, and I appreciate you and your folks here for this conversation, and welcome.
Well, thank you, Tim. So while it seems like 95% of the panels at conferences are focused on connected TV, the reality is that there are a tremendous amount of innovation that is going on in the TV space that is bringing both greater precision and greater accountability to TV. So what we're going to do for the next 25 or 30 minutes is we're going to talk to a couple of great research innovators in this space, and then someone from the buy side and someone from the sell side to get their perspective on the developments at hand and how they're practically being used in market. Why don't we start by having each of the panelists do a quick 30-second introduction? Bob, why don't you start?
All right. Hey, thanks, Howard. Hey, first of all, I'll talk about the elephant in the room. I'm not Joe, who sends her apologies. Like parents of school-aged children around the country, she had a conflict, so she couldn't make it. So I'm the substitute today. So I apologize to all of you on her behalf and for myself, because now you have to listen to me instead. So I work for TV Squared. I'm relatively new. We're kind of the overnight success that's taken 6 or 7 years to get here. We're a measurement company, just pure and simple. Our goal is to measure TV the way people watch it. And that means, and try to provide metrics to both the buy side and the sell side. Did the ad run where and when I want it to run? What's the reach and frequency of the of the audience I was trying to reach, and did it drive the outcomes that I was trying to achieve. So in a world,
Hey,
sorry, go
Bob,
ahead.
you'll get into more depth in a couple of minutes. Let's just get through
Oh,
it.
sorry.
No worries. Mike, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Michael Piner, and I'm one of the video investment leads for Media Hub. We're a full service media planning and buying agency that's part of Interpublic Group. And one of the areas that I focus on is advanced television and advanced television solutions for our agency network.
Great. Ethan.
Sure. Good morning. I'm Ethan Heftman from A&E Networks. I work on our precision and performance advertising sales team. And what that means simply is that we are the part of advertising sales for A&E dedicated to responding to the call to move the business beyond age and gender demographics. Anything more advanced than an age gender demo, you would work with my team on.
Great. And last but certainly not least, Noah.
Hi, I'm Noah Levine from 605. It's fantastic to be wearing a collared shirt. I focus on our strategy, our sales, our marketing for the company. We're very focused on next generation television measurement. And I have a feeling Howard's going to ask a question that will allow me to tell you more about what we do and how we work with some of the folks on the Zoom today.
Great. Thanks, guys. And I think Noah gets a prize for Room Raider in terms of background. Anyway, so let's start with Noah and Bob. Give us a couple of minute explanation of what TV Squared and what 605 provide to the marketplace now. So Bob, why don't you start, being that I cut you off?
No, I apologize. I didn't realize we're going to do the intros, so that's my fault. I should have read the notes before I started talking. Yeah, so 605. I'm sorry. So TV Squared is purely focused on measurement. We don't have any conflict. We don't sell media. We're not a DSP. We're focused on measurement. We want to try to measure TV, which is redefining itself in real time, the way people watch it. And we want to provide metrics to both the buy side and the sell side that they want. Did the ads run? Did it reach a frequency on a cross platform, undulated measurement form? And did it drive business outcomes? I think we're kind of known, and we've been painted into a corner of doing this probabilistic time series correlation. But as TV becomes more complicated, we've moved into the deterministic measurement. So I think that's kind of what we want to get into, that people are watching it across multiple platforms, and we're ingesting data from multiple disparate data sets, harmonizing them and giving our customers an opportunity to interrogate.
Great, thank you. Noah, why don't you give us a 605 background?
Certainly. So 605 is about 4 years old. We do three things primarily: television measurement, television analytics, which is interrogating a next generation view of the linear DVR set-top box VOD, and connected TV universe, so that you can get insights and plan, etc. And then the third thing is very sophisticated attribution. All of these three services that 605 provides are built on our next generation television viewership data set, which we're very proud of. We've invested quite heavily into. It's 22 million households. It's multi-source, which is a combination of set-top box data, as well as smart TV ACR data with currency grade projections for the US national market. We also are deterministic, and that the term deterministic quality of our viewership and our attribution is a big thing that 605 has been investing into to be able to support the future of television measurement. And so essentially what that allows us to do is to combine data sets, audience data sets, digital data sets, viewership, et cetera, in a extraordinary high fidelity way without lookalike modeling, and that supports causal analysis. and we have two products that sit on this. One is 605 Platform. That's our measurement and analytics offering. And then the other is 605 Impact, which we're really proud of. This is our self-service attribution offering. We actually just signed up A&E for a few campaigns. So we're really excited about that. And we also are agnostic, working with the sell side, the buy side, and don't buy or sell media, or nor are we our DSP, et cetera. So we're completely neutral in that sense.
Got it. Thanks, Noah. So Mike, from someone responsible for spending clients' dollars, how does having these great attribution providers affect your business day to day?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. And I love those descriptions from Noah and Bob on what their companies do, because if you got a sense from that of how many factors and how many variables and how complicated this can be, I think those descriptions probably gave you that impression, because it is. But I think that, their companies and several others in the TV measurement and attribution space are helping, right? But are they at the end state? No, we're not at the end state. We're just at the beginning. We're actually at the end of the beginning, not the beginning of the end. You've heard that before, but that's kind of where we are, I believe. And essentially what this comes down to is we need to collaborate and to work together with these innovative data and tech companies like 605 and TV Squared and many others in order to get there. That is clear. And so that is, what we're concentrating on. And they benefit because, they can move faster, and they are putting resources against this that, we don't necessarily have the luxury, myself and Ethan on this panel, right, to do. So I think that there's a collaboration amongst all of us on this panel that needs to take place. And I think we're doing that today more than we have ever before.
So Mike, just to dig into it a little more deeply, I mean, obviously we have a lot of history with Nielsen measuring opportunity for exposure. Now we're moving towards outcome-based planning and buying. How many years away do you think we are where you'd be able to optimize a plan for an advertiser based on expected outcomes?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it depends on how much we concentrate on this, right? How much time, resources, and personnel, that we put into it. And it's an interesting conversation because, the pandemic, right? And what happened with the pandemic, we were moving pretty fast. And obviously, that hit us, right? All as a surprise. And I think the instinct industry-wide at first, I know that we felt this was almost like, we need to take sort of one step back, right? First to take two steps forward. And I think there was not completely 100% agreement on that actually now, because of what the pandemic has done and accelerating change, right? Essentially packing 3 years of change into 3 months, that actually now is the time that we actually take 3 steps forward. Right? Difficult to do, but I think, we are at that point, whether or not we did that initially at first or not. I think now we're kind of emerging, for this. I think, dollars are coming back into the market. Advertisers are reemerging, right? And are ready to spend. Everybody's looking at 2021. So we kind of have a little bit of a blank sheet in how we can sort of, change the business model. And that's something that Ethan and I are concentrating on in television, right? Using companies like 605 and TV Squared to help us get there. And we could talk about that in a little bit. So
yep, got it.
I'm going to jump in there, and I know Ethan wants to talk too, but I think 2 things you just said. One is collaboration is critical. I don't think, this is a team sport. Nobody's going to get there by themselves, 1. And then 2, it's an old cliche, but we shouldn't let any crisis go to waste. I think that, the COVID and the exogenous shock to the economy really is going to force us to rethink things. The legacy business models and legacy relationships are changing. You know, the upfront's gone, advertisers are demanding more flexibility and they want to know proof. So I think you're absolutely right. This is the time, instead of 2 steps back for 1 step forward, we aggressively pursue collaboration and take 3 steps forward. So I just want to, you know, hammer that home.
Yeah, thanks. So Ethan, give us a sell side. How important is attribution? And you know, obviously part of your job is driving yield on the impressions you have to sell. How does attribution affect that?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, number one, everything that everyone has said so far is spot on, in the sense that it's all being used to move the business forward into a future where impressions are used more wisely. One of the things that, you know, when you talk about yield, one of the challenges that we have is that when you sell on a broad age gender demo, like adults 18 to 49, you're not using all of your impressions as wisely as you might otherwise be able to if you're selling advanced audiences. And so this move to advanced audiences is as much about providing the advertiser with the insight and the knowledge that they need to move their business forward, but it's as much about allowing us to use our full audience that we deliver to move our business forward. So we view it as an extraordinarily important topic, and it's something that's extraordinarily important for us to partner with agencies like Mike's, who are moving the ball forward on this, and companies like Bob's and Noah's, who are moving the ball forward on measurement, because we don't control measurement. You know, we don't measure our own audiences.
Yep, got it. So one of the things we talked about on our prep call was sort of the conundrum of, are we trying to reprove that TV works? I mean, there's a lot of research that's been done that says TV works, or, you know, in specific campaigns, or are we really trying to put in place sort of the tactical infrastructure to really let this affect buying, selling, plan allocations, what inventory, all of that? What do you think we're trying to accomplish with this? Noah, why don't you start?
So the answer is both. And because the fact is, TV is the most effective advertising medium that exists. And TV can do much more than brand advertising, but brand advertising is definitely not going away. But what we need to allow the marketplace to do is to allow the traditional brand advertising to coexist with outcome-based guarantees, with audience-based guarantees, whether that's done through data-driven linear, combined with addressable and cross-platform into connected TV. And that requires reinventing the traditional television measurement. And that's really what 605 has been heavily focused on, so that we have to fix the past, if you will, in order to be able to support being able to move forward. And so television can do all of these things. And when you have 22 million households and you can match data anonymously in a privacy compliant way and surface that from a planning perspective, measurement perspective, attribution perspective, and then be able to use responsive segments, if you will, also must be anonymous, must be privacy compliant. You can then optimize in ways that, you know, Mike was talking about during his introduction. And we can actually begin to deliver the future of what television is and have it coexist with digital and support all those use cases.
I have a point to make here on this. I feel like, you know, TV has been flattened down for 5 years, right? While digital continues to grow. So unless television, and I think it's, you know, it's a fantastic branding experience. It's a fantastic DR experience, but unless we neutralize the targeting and measurement advantages that digital has had, we're going to continue to be flattened down. Now, I think, you know, TV's migrating to IP delivered, whether it's a streaming service or not, so we're going to pick these up. But I think we need, as an industry, recognize that we're going to be on our back foot to digital unless we fix these two things. And the other thing I was going to point out, like, I think, certainly sample size matters, and we have access to, similar data sets that Noah has access to. But I think once you see a product in the marketplace and ad sales organizations are using it, like we have thousands of people using our system, measuring thousands of campaigns all simultaneously, and they're closing more business at higher CPMs, or they're getting customers that they lost back in because they have these capabilities. And I think when you start to see the top line ad revenue curve bend, you recognize the power of having this new measurement capabilities. Ignoring the targeting things, because I think that's just as important, but just having, did it work? Did I deliver the ad I was supposed to? Did it reach the target I wanted to reach? And did it drive the business outcomes? And I think that's what's going to help the entire TV ecosystem out going forward.
Mike, Ethan, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with it completely that a lot of what we're looking for in whether it's measurement partners or tech partners is the ability to keep advertisers in the ecosystem, to bring new advertisers into the ecosystem, those that are used to a digital way of thinking and a digital way of trading. We are attempting to engage that same conversation. We're not trying to leave branding behind. We all realize that television still plays a major role in branding, and branding plays a major role in the purchase funnel. But we need to be able to have all conversations. We can't just have the old legacy conversation.
Yep, got it.
And I would just add one thing to this, and in that, looking towards the future, yes, we have to empower television to do more, but we also really have to solve the massive fragmentation problem that has surfaced with the rise of streaming, and that so much viewership is time shifted. So much viewership is happening on connected TV, and all of those, premium viewing experiences have to be bridged with linear and DVR and set-top box spot. And they have to have the same capabilities as well, so that you can, be able to do everything consistently across all those different fragmented platforms.
Yep. So Mike, you mentioned in the beginning how you feel like we're early. This is probably the second inning of a 9-inning game. What do you think we need to get better at to move this ahead, where this materially affects how you think about allocation, execution of campaigns?
Yeah, there's a lot. We need to get better at a lot. There's a lot to unpack there, but let me just kind of talk about what I mentioned earlier. And I can go back to your other question too, in that last segment. But anyway, talking about that end state, right? Like where do we need to get to? Like what is nirvana? Like what is the end state, right? And you've all heard this before, but there's a lot of factors and a lot of variables, and Noah just touched on them, right? So it's like, the end state, to me, you could agree or disagree with this, and to us is like, are we reaching the right audience with the right message at the right place at the right time within the right content? Let's not forget about that. That's important. At the right frequency. Those are a lot of factors. Those are a lot of dots that we need to connect. And I think partially that's what Noah was getting at, right? And so in order to do that, right, we need to measure the mix of all that and whether or not it's working, right? And is that driving the outcomes that our advertisers and brands need, right? And that's both brand outcomes and business outcomes. Let's not forget about that, right? And TV benefits because it does both really well. And many advertisers will say that TV is the largest share of my budget, so I need it to do both. So that is a challenge as well. And so it comes down to like, how are we measuring that? How are we measuring that? How are we connecting all of those dots? And what are we using? And are we measuring, what our advertisers and brands need to get to? Or are we just using proxies? For example, foot traffic versus sales, right? There's a lot of factors and a lot of things to figure out before we get there. And I think prioritizing that, right, is really, you know, what we need to do in order to keep moving the ball down the field, to use another sports analogy.
Yep. Yeah, I'm a giant fan of context. And when I was at Turner, we did some research using Bill Harvey RMT's driver tags. And we actually showed that better alignment of content and the ads drove higher ROI than bad alignment, which you'd expect. But, you know, I think what you're pointing at is getting variables like that into the analysis pool and understanding how much that is a lever that you can execute. Ethan, what's your perspective on what do we need to get better at for this to really scale and impact your business?
I think we need to get better at the accuracy of attribution models. You know, I think that there are a lot of different companies with a lot of different methodologies. Everyone is trying to get optimal. I think we've gotten to a point where, you know, we're getting optimized, but the optimal is still a long way away. You know, to Mike's point about foot traffic versus sales as a, you know, an attribution outcome. If you're going to look at sales as an outcome, you have to be confident with the models. You have to be confident that the data in, and then what's being, you know, that the data in is accurate, and then what's being done with the data is accurate. Because essentially, we're putting our inventory on the line to deliver on those models. So, you know, one of the reasons why we work with all comers in the space is because we're looking for the best mousetrap. But that's, you know, that's really a clear one for us, front and center.
Yeah, that's great. So Bob and Noah, so what you heard from Ethan and Mike were measuring more attributes. So in a way that Mike has sort of, it's almost like a dashboard with lots of different dials that he could dial up and down. And then Ethan talked about accuracy of the attribution models. Could you talk a little bit about how each of your companies are addressing those?
Sure, absolutely. Happy to go first, or Bob.
You're wearing a nice collared shirt, so I'll let you go first.
Thank you. So, you know, the accuracy and the quality, it really is a huge thing. You know, it's like baking a cake. And there's a lot of ingredients. There's the core viewership data. You know, are you using a third-party ad feed to ad occurrence data source, or are you using like a source of record, an as run log file, you know, that affects accuracy. And then you have, what is the attribution methodology that's being applied, and what level of science is being applied there? And, you know, is it just simply control versus exposed? Or, you know, are you doing a synthetic control, or are you doing a holdout control? You know, there's so many different variables that, you know, have complexity and expense associated with them in time. And then it's also like the data, like what is the KPI that you're using from an outcome perspective? And how is that onboarded? Are you doing a match against, you know, a subset of households and then lookalike modeling at the zip code level? Because guess what, that's not deterministic. Or are you doing a high resolution match against a census style viewership data set? So there's so many things that factor in here. And what 605 does is we actually have products. We're purely, you know, deterministic when it comes to activating data. But there is a national projection because we don't have 120 million households. And then there's a scientific rigor that we like to apply. But you know, the thing is, there's a lot of parties that come into playing a role here, you know, and going back to a point that Bob made earlier, like to be able to do this in a cross-platform way and to be able to bring actual like transactional sales data, like this takes a village to be able to execute. It takes an ecosystem. And so, you know, what we need to do as an industry to support the likes of Ethan and Mike is to be able to be transparent and to be open and to work with one another so that we're advancing the overall marketplaces. All boats rise.
Yep. So Bob, what's TV Squared doing to sort of address what you heard from Michael and Ethan?
Yeah, I was going to say we got to do collaboration in quarantine. That's going to be my new soundbite. No, I think there's a couple things here. One, TV is a very flexible medium, and we need to recognize that there's no one size fits all in terms of measurement. You know, some people want to drive traffic to a website, some people want to drive sales, some people want to drive awareness, and we need to have, you know, taps in a data stream in place so we can collect that data and correlate it or deterministically match it so that we can give them what they want. So I feel that TV Squared has built this flexible platform to solve needs at scale for customers, regardless of what they are. If you want to give us your ads run logs, we'll take them. If you want to give us access, you know, if we have access to set-top box data, the way Noah does and we do, then we'll use that and that occurrence data to understand did it run and then match it deterministically to outcome data. So I feel like we're getting there. I feel like we're, you know, as I said earlier, we're already working with thousands of, you know, sales organizations and running thousands of campaigns through our platform. What we need to do is just start to deliver on the promise. And I think the industry, to Noah's point, you know, we will start to fight back against digital. Ad dollars will start to flow back into TV as it's redefined. And we're going to be in a better spot a year from now than we are today.
Okay, thanks. So closing thought. Let's assume next year we're all on a panel again, and we're COVID is behind us, and we could be doing this live. What's the one thing you'd look to say we've really moved the ball forward? Mike, why don't you start?
You know, I would just take a kind of step back from all of this complicated, you know, variables and factors and everything that we're talking about, to kind of take a different perspective on this. And I think it's working together really to change the business model that we're operating in, right? To enable this, to enable everything that we're talking about to get to that end state, right? And how can we change that business model to get our advertisers what they need? And the biggest word of this year's, over the summer, this year's upfront, if you call it an upfront, was flexibility, right? And like that, how can we change the business model to get that? Because we need that. If we're going to measure outcomes and attribution, like what that's all about is the ability for us to optimize towards performance better in television. And the current model doesn't support that. So how could we change the business model to allow us to do that? So not necessarily the flexibility to cancel media, but the flexibility to allow for performance and optimization, I think is the conversation that we really need to have seriously together in this business and find that win-win so that our partners like A&E are also, you know, able to manage the yield and the risk, you know, that they're taking and understand that, really have an honest, more honest conversation about changing that business model once and for all moving forward. And I think we have that opportunity now. Got it.
Ethan, what's your perspective?
I hope a year from now we're talking more about the value of all impressions. That you know, saying that adults 18 to 49 are the only impressions with value is an antiquated notion, and I hope that this move towards outcomes, towards attribution, enables us to have a more honest dialogue about the value of all impressions to an advertiser.
Got it. Bob, what's the one thing you'd want to see TV Square do in the next year to move this forward?
Well, I think I like the idea about these business models changing. I think that's exactly right. I think the structure that's been in place for as long as it has is now past its sell-by date, and things do need to change. I feel what's going to happen is I think TV is going to start to bend the curve, and ad revenue on television, however we define it, is going to grow. And I think if we see that, then I think we'll know that we're doing our job.
Great. Noah, the last word.
So it's always easiest going last, and it's flexibility in my mind, but it's flexibility with data, it's flexibility with technology to be able to support, the differentiation of different types of audiences from a value perspective, to support different types of buying models, to be able to support different types of optimization models, to solve the fragmentation issue, and so forth. And so that's what we're very focused on at 605.
Well, guys, thanks for a fabulous conversation. And I think now we'll turn it back to Tim.
Tremendous. Thank you, Howard. Thank you, gentlemen, very much. Yeah, I mean, the more things change, they stay the same. But it's clear that there's something in between those two things, right? And we all need to figure out where the best models sort of exist. I take Michael's point to heart, right? The business models, right? The technology, the data, the capabilities don't seem to be lacking. Matter of fact, they're probably more real and pronounced and available than ever before, right? But do the business models keep up with that, and/or can we collectively get there? And frankly, sooner rather than later, right? I think a lot of things have been compressed over the last number of months, even. And look, this is an extremely important topic. It has been for some time, but the go-to-markets strategies and value propositions.